have chronic levels of inflammation in your body, that is a setup for type 2 diabetes. It increases your risk of cardiovascular disease, and it even increases the risk of some forms of cancer as well. And there's a good chance that you've got some of this smoldering inflammation inside your body. Your immune system defends you against invaders from the outside world like viruses and bacteria. It can also defend you against cancer inside your body. But guess what? When your immune system's trigger happy, it can actually cause your smooth muscle cells around your airways to constrict. Skin condition, where your skin is red, blotchy, breaking out, and itchy and rashy. Guess what? You might have elevated cytokines that reflect the fact that you have increased inflammation in your body. Now, I just want to actually tell you, I do have a favorite anti-inflammatory substance, and you know what that is? Got it right here. Today we're going to talk about how you can tell you've got chronic inflammation brewing inside your body. This is common, this is overlooked, this is a big health issue in our modern world, and there's a good chance that you've got some of this smoldering inflammation inside your body. We got a lot of reasons to actually have inflammation, and I just want to show you there's some subtle things that you can actually look for. First, look at your skin, all right? The hands, the face, these are areas that are very, very sensitive to changes on your skin. Your skin's actually a mirror for what's going on inside your body as well. And skin inflammation is very easy to spot. If you got skin inflammation, good chance you've got some inflammation inside your body as well. So what are some signs of skin inflammation? That could be signaling that you have inside inflammation. Well, redness on the skin, itchiness, rashes, when you actually break, like you're breaking out your skin. Conditions like acne, eczema, psoriasis, these are the signs and symptoms that signal that you might actually have chronic inflammation in your body. And in fact, studies have shown that people who do have skin conditions like psoriasis and acne, they have elevated levels of inflammatory cytokines in their blood. Cytokines are proteins that are elevated. They're released by immune cells that are causing inflammation, inflammatory cells. And so they actually get into the bloodstream. And so if you've got chronic inflammation, if you've got a skin condition where your skin is red, blotchy, breaking out, and itchy and rashy, guess what? You might have elevated cytokines that reflect the fact that you have increased inflammation in your body. Again, people with psoriasis or eczema, atopic dermatitis, all right, that's a contact allergy of the skin. Even teenage acne, all right, have been found to show that if you have elevated inflammatory proteins in your bloodstream, one of those proteins being C-reactive protein. C is in Charlie, all right? You can measure that in your blood, all right? So if you're a biohacker, by the way, and you have some skin rashes or skin redness, you want to check if you have inflammation, go ahead. Next time you see your doctor, ask them to check C-reactive protein, all right? CRP, and see if you do have inflammation or not, all right? Remember, inflammatory skin conditions, you can see them on the skin, red, itchy, irritation. That's a reflection of what's actually happening inside your body as well. These are the symptoms and signs that are key indicators of systemic inflammation that are inside your body. And if you got it, you want to do something about it. Some of the things that you can actually do, by the way, to lower inflammation are eating foods that are anti-inflammatory. All right, so strawberries, tomatoes, papaya, guava, red bell peppers, these actually contain a lot of vitamin C. A lot of vitamin C can actually lower inflammation in your body. So one of the signs is redness of the skin. What's another way you can tell if you actually have inflammation in your body, or check to see if you get inflammation in your body? Another subtle sign is your breathing, all right? You ever felt like short of breath or wheezy? Could be asthma, all right? Guess what? Asthma is an inflammatory condition of your airways. So here's how your airways work. We breathe oxygen through our nose, or air through our nose or through our mouth, goes down your windpipe, okay, that's air, goes down into smaller pipes, your trachea, your bronchus, and then it goes into your alveoli. These are like the smallest air sacs in your lungs. Well, guess what? Around the larger airways, they're wrapped with muscle, all right, called smooth muscle. And when those muscles are very trigger happy, like they are in the condition called asthma, which is Very, very common, affects about 10% of the population, all right? 10%. 1 out of 10 people have asthma. I actually have some asthma as well, adult asthma. Those muscles are very, very sensitive to inflammation, and they can constrict. And when you constrict your airway muscles, guess what? You start to wheeze. Now, you may know that asthma is common in children, but you can also develop it as an adult, all right? Whether you're talking about childhood asthma or adult asthma, these are inflammatory conditions. It's an immunological issue related to your immune defenses, which are important. Your immune system defends you against invaders from the outside world like viruses and bacteria, can also defend you against cancer inside your body. But guess what? When your immune system's trigger happy, it can actually cause your smooth muscle cells around your airways to constrict. Some of the things that can trigger people to constrict their airways: pollen, seasonal pollen, very common trigger for asthma. Cat hair, another one. Cigarette smoke. Some people are really sensitive to cigarette smoke. I'm talking about secondary smoke, not just primary smoke. Cold air, go from a warm house, open the door, step outside, run to the mailbox in the winter. That can trigger an asthma attack if you actually are susceptible to it. And certain foods, some substances in foods can trigger, whether it's tomatoes or strawberries, can also trigger an asthma attack. And even exercise. Some people, if you exercise, work out, afterwards, you trigger asthma in your body. Sudden tightening of your airways, the muscles around your airways, and guess what? It's going to be hard to breathe, and you're going to start to wheeze. That wheezy sound that breath makes during asthma. Now, people with asthma have chronic inflammation, and we know this because if you actually draw their blood and you look for that inflammatory marker, C-reactive protein, CRP, guess what? You'll actually find that they have elevated levels of this inflammatory cytokine. And by the way, this cytokine was elevated, I think I told you earlier, in a skin condition called eczema, also inflammatory condition. Remember I told you what you see in the skin is actually a reflection of what's happening inside the body. Well, guess what? People with eczema often have asthma and vice versa. Both of them have elevated inflammatory cytokines, proteins in their bloodstream. Starting to make sense now, right? These are subtle signs, the skin and your breathing, that you might have inflammation in your body. Now, if you actually have asthma, one of the things that's really important to do is to avoid getting triggered. Avoid those triggers that can actually make your airways clench and constrict and spasm. Very dangerous. I mean, people can actually die from an asthmatic attack. So you definitely don't want to be caught like that. But the other thing you can actually do, there's different ways to actually, obviously, you got an inhaler, use an inhaler to relax if you're getting triggered. Otherwise, just try to avoid the stimuli that sets you off. All right. And by the way, if you actually encounter a food that causes triggering, I'd write it down. All right. Just so that the next time you see it, you avoid it. People who have food sensitivities that can trigger an immunological response, kind of like asthma. Celiac disease is one of those things. People with celiac, right? They're eating gluten. Their immune system reacts to gluten. All right. And they get this terrible reaction. They get a lot of belly pain. Think about celiac disease like asthma of the gut. All right. That smooth muscle cells, the tightening of around the airways. Well, when you actually have the spasm around your gut, that is actually what you get. The celiac, the discomfort, and it's the gluten that triggers this immune response, causing a lot of inflammation. Remember, we're still talking about subtle signs of inflammation in your body, what to actually check for. All right. So he said, check your skin, check your breathing. All right. These are things that you want to take a look at. Now, what are some of the things that can lower inflammation? Berries, blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, packed with polyphenols. Citrus is a fruit category, all right, that has a lot of vitamin C. Vitamin C is anti-inflammatory. It counters inflammation in your body, all right? Oranges, mandarins, tangerines, grapefruits, lemons, limes, but other foods that actually, those are the citrus. Other foods that have vitamin C, tomatoes, red bell peppers, broccoli has got vitamin C as well. Back to citrus, by the way, you can certainly take a vitamin C supplement, for sure. You can actually do that. Or you can squeeze a little bit of citrus into a pitcher of water in your fridge. Point is that there's a lot of ways to actually get vitamin C. I tend to tell people to try to get as much as they can from food. Then if you need to top it off, go ahead. Take a supplement or a vitamin as well. By the way, another anti-inflammatory food that you should know about, all right, is extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil has polyphenols that are anti-inflammatory, like hydroxytyrosol, oleocanthal. All right, they in fact are the polyphenols that give you a little bit of that peppery zing in the back of your throat when you have really high quality olive oil. You know, you want to dip it with a little bread or cook with it. I like to cook with extra virgin olive oil. All right, that's actually really helpful. Another food that can have anti-inflammatory benefits are foods with dietary fiber. The dietary fiber feeds our gut microbiome. Our gut microbiome releases these short-chain fatty acids that lower inflammation. All right, so what are some of my favorite sources of dietary fiber? Well, I mentioned one, raspberries, pound for pound, one of the most fiber potent foods that there are. They're pretty light, so you'd have to eat a lot of them. But guess what? Avocado, also rich in dietary fiber. Mushrooms, a lot of dietary fiber called beta-D-glucan. And a lot of other foods that are anti-inflammatory, like quercetin in apples, have anti-inflammatory effects as well. And of course, broccoli, kale, bok choy, Brussels sprouts, those also have potent anti-inflammatory benefits, including the contribution made by the amount of dietary fiber themselves. Now, just want to actually tell you, I do have a favorite anti-inflammatory substance, and you know what that is? Got it right here. Green tea. Green tea, just had some, loaded with anti-inflammatory polyphenols. One of the categories is called catechins, specifically EGCG, epigallocatechin 3 gallate. I dare you say it as fast as I can. I've had a lot of practice. Plus, as a researcher, I got to deal with a lot of chemical names, complicated tongue twisters. But the EGCG polyphenol that's found in green tea, right here, okay, helps to fight oxidative stress. This is cellular stress and can help to fight inflammation in the body as well. I drink green tea as many cups as I can during the day, just sip it all day long. And guess what? Actually, it really does not only help me feel calmer, but it also helps to lower inflammation in the body, which is one of the reasons that I drink it. I like the flavor and the taste, but it's also a powerful anti-inflammatory. All right, this video is about what are the subtle signs you might be looking for that signal that you have inflammation in your body. Well, the third one I want to tell you about is weight gain. What do I mean weight gain? And where do you gain the weight? I'm talking about gaining weight on the scale that you can measure on the scale, but you're actually seeing more fat around your belly. Body fat around the belly can be signaling that you actually have a lot more visceral fat. Viscera means gut, gut fat. Visceral fat is fat that grows inside the tube of your body, inside the cavity, and it kind of gets right inside and works around the coiled up intestines. And fat, by the way, is actually good for you until you have too much of it. Like if you're gaining a lot of weight, now you've got too much fat, it turns into a problem. Actually, it triggers inflammation. So I do want to actually tell you one thing about fat cells. I wrote a book called Eat to Beat Your Diet. Ton of information about the benefits of your body's natural healthy levels of the fat, right? Not good to lower your fat down to 1% or 0.5% or no body fat. Not good for you. We all want some fat in our body. We just don't want a ton of it, especially inside our belly. If you are actually gaining weight and your belly is punching out, or you need to loosen your belt or get a bigger dress size, guess what? Could be that you're growing extra fat cells in your body. So here's how this actually works. Your fat cell, also known as an adipose cell, is a fuel tank. It's storing fuel, storing energy when you need it. So during the day, when we're up and running around and it's time to sit down for a meal, when we eat that food, the energy from that food actually goes into our bloodstream. Some of it actually goes to power up the muscles we're using or our brain. But anything that's not immediately useful winds up getting stored in body fat. Now, fat cells, also called adipocytes, start small and they can expand when they're filled up with fat to 3 times their size, like a water balloon, all right? So you can imagine if you're eating a lot, putting a ton of calories in, pounding down the food, your body's going to be storing that energy. Like, this is how we evolved. Whenever we got energy, we want to store it. You can store it into a fat cell. You're eating, it's going to expand. Eating some more, it's going to expand some more. Oh, you're still eating? Well, now you're going to actually blow it up and do this over and over and over again. And do that when that happens with the fat that's inside, around your waist, inside the tube of your body. Now you're going to gain weight because the fat mass is getting bigger. You're going to actually pooch out. All right. That's kind of like the beer gut. Actually, it's the visceral fat growing inside there. And that is a setup to have chronic inflammation. All right. Overeating expands your fat cells and therefore your fat mass. When it happens inside the tube of your body, you're growing visceral fat, gut fat, and that is the most dangerous type of inflammatory fat you can actually have. Let me just tell you, overstuffed fat with fuel, the fuel can leak out. When the fuel leaks out of that gas tank, inflammation races in to that area, and that inflammation also starts to seep into the rest of the body as well. Signs of inflammation in your body, chronic inflammation, could be weight gain, expanding waistline, clothing that doesn't quite fit so well anymore. Yeah, maybe you're getting a little bit bigger. All right. These could be signs that you actually have chronic inflammation inside your body. And by the way, this is bad because if you have chronic levels of inflammation in your body, that is a setup for type 2 diabetes. It increases your risk of cardiovascular disease, and it even increases the risk of some forms of cancer as well. The same foods that reduce inflammation in the skin and the lung, okay, can also help to reduce inflammation caused by excessive visceral body fat because you ate too much, all right? Too many calories. So what you want to do is you can eat to lower inflammation. That can be helpful because you got to eat, right? So eating those foods like the berries, the colorful berries and the leafy greens, those can actually have an anti-inflammatory benefit. Key takeaway here is that there are many subtle signs and some not so subtle signs that inflammation may be going on inside your body. Inflammation being a root cause of a lot of chronic diseases. And so the ones we talked about are your skin, any rashes, any redness, okay, your breathing, any wheezing, do you have asthma, and weight gain, all right? Are you growing extra visceral fat because you're overeating and your clothing's not fitting quite as well, all right? These could all be subtle signs, subtle and important signs that inflammation's occurring inside your body. Something you can actually do about all of this, first of all, pay attention to your body, right? Most of us don't pay a lot of attention to our breathing, for example. Many of us don't step on the scale every day. And you might blow off the fact your clothing is getting a little tighter and you just kind of like fit your way into it and just keep on going with your day. But when you pay attention to your body, look at your skin, you might actually realize that you need to have anti-inflammatory foods in your diet to counter that. So you can make small, meaningful changes by the food, by the diet and lifestyle that we choose every single day in order to be able to actually lower and even reverse some of those conditions that are caused by chronic inflammation. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to get more of this science and evidence-based information. And if you think that you know somebody who could benefit from the video, please share it. Share it with anybody else that you think could benefit from this. Remember, chronic inflammation is bad. Food as medicine to lower inflammation is good. You can eat to beat inflammation. You can live longer and healthier lives. Dr. Lee out. Hey, if you like that video, then you're going to love this one. Check it out.